What is a RPG? We all think we knew what a role-playing game looks like. If I said what's an RPG, you might think something like Final Fantasy XIV, or one of many MMOs that are out there. You might think of any number of single-player games, like Skyrim. Games where you make a character and you control the character in a third-person or first-person mode, and you navigate throughout a map and go on a virtual adventure. But to me, role-playing games are a bit more broader in definition than that. The truth is, any game that allows you to imagine yourself in a role outside of real life in a virtual environment is a role-playing game. A city builder game like this one could be a role-playing game because you're playing the role as the mayor of a city or the designer of a town. A game where you are driving a truck in American Truck Simulator, or flying an airplane in Flight Simulator. Those are role-playing games too, because you're able to imagine yourself doing something in a virtual environment that you perhaps wouldn't be doing in real life. And these things are valuable because it's important to imagine things differently than what they are. A pilot who plays Flight Simulator in his spare time, and I know this is true, this really happens. Flight simulators, which are games, get used by real-life pilots to hone their skills and stay familiar with the real-life art of piloting. And I heard about this during the pandemic when there were pilots who weren't able to engage in actually flying their airplanes, and they would stay familiar with flight through the medium of flight simulators. It was a way for them to stay connected to something virtually when they couldn't do it physically. Now, when we're children, we play with things like wooden blocks or toy cars or Lego sets or whatever it might be. And that sense of play is important because when we're children, there's a lot of things, in fact, almost everything, perhaps, we can't do in real life. We're kind of powerless. And so we imagine ourselves as being able to do things that we can't do. And that's what play really is. It's imagining that you are in a different set of circumstances than you really are. Play for a child allows them to mentally practice in a virtual way something which perhaps as adults one day they'll actually realize. Maybe that child who enjoys playing with little fire trucks and ladders and imagining that he's a firefighter putting out a blaze in a building or something actually grows up and he becomes a firefighter. Or maybe not. But the point stands that play helps us to connect with abstract ideas. Now, as adults, sometimes we benefit from escapism, if you will, because we're not going to probably be all superheroes or something like that. So it's nice to maybe imagine limitless worlds where we can be whatever it is we want to be. Maybe something that we aren't ever actually going to be able to do. Maybe it's fun to run and jump virtually with a character in a video game if you don't have any legs in real life. Maybe it's just a nice thing to be able to experience the freedom from limitations with your imagination. And that's novel entertainment. It's good for the peace of mind, I suppose. But for everybody else, there's another good reason to stay in touch with that creative, playful side of your personality, to play games, to be interested in them, to take them, I guess, seriously to a point. And that's that one of the most important things in the world is being able to imagine the world differently than just the way it is. Because the truth is, the world isn't a very good place in some ways. Of course, in many ways, it is a very good place. In many ways, we have more blessings today than we ever have had in likely the history of our species' existence. And yet, it's also important for us to imagine the world as being different than what it is. Perhaps as being better than what it is. It's when we imagine things through our mind's eye, and we see things not just as the nuts and bolts of what they are, but also through the imaginary lens of what maybe they could become. We create seeds of inspiration, which can grow into things that are meaningful. Perhaps more so than we would ever be inclined to imagine. So, just to illustrate this, I will say that if you are all business and you just think about life without any sense of real fun, you're sort of all serious, always just doing serious grown-up adult things, the things that are going to create success in life, the things that are going to matter in the official sense, then what do you get at the end? What do you get when you realize that you spent your whole life doing things that are serious, managing people and running businesses and making sure things got done, but you don't really have anything else to show for it on a spiritual sort of a level. This is a important thing, because if you ask a child why life matters, what it is that's important, they're going to have a few simple things that they really want to do, things that give them joy. And they don't need to explain why those things are amazing. They just are. But as adults, we start to think that everything needs to be explained. Everything needs a reason. And if it's not serious, it probably shouldn't be something we're doing. And that's where we ought to be a bit more childlike, to embrace the imagination and not be so uptight. That's also where I think role-playing games can come into play very nicely. And to go full circle, a role-playing game isn't just one particular sort of game. It's anything that sparks your imagination and takes you out of the role of what you do in your day-to-day work life and puts you into a different mindset where you see things through the eye, not of facts and figures, but of your imagination. And I think as people age, the more people get older and start to look at what really matters in life, and as we look at people who have lived their life and we ponder who's perhaps worthy of admiration, the people who we really admire, the people who inspire us, they're not the people who were really, really good at efficiently getting things done. They're the people who inspired us, who had time for us. People who, regardless of their age, found a way somehow to keep alive that spirit of youth. Thank you for watching.